Caitlin back up to talk a little bit more about speaking with legislators, and then we're going to wrap it up and break for lunch.
And Dwight's going to stay around in case y'all need any help.
Thank you. This is Dwight Clark. He's Senator Menendez's chief of staff. So,
Legislative director.
legislative director. I'm sorry, my bad. He's the legislative director, but he's the staff member that's working on this bill and working with us. So, any questions and things, feel free to talk to him. Also, don't forget to sign Josephine's map on your way out. Okay.
Once again, thank you, Senator Menendez. Thank you, Dwight, for your leadership and your work. It's really exciting to have folks coming into this room with all of us to talk seriously about how to get this passed. And so we're thankful for that leadership. Okay, so we're here today not to sit in this room, right? We're here to go and have lobby visits, correct? So what I want to do is talk a little bit. Can you guys hear me okay? I want to talk a little bit about best practices in advocacy. And the truth is that you're the experts already. You're going to be talking from your personal experience. You know this better than anyone. And so just have confidence in talking from your own experience and talking from your heart. That said, talking about medical marijuana can be tricky, politically sometimes, right? And so I want to give a few questions that you might get when you're visiting an office, and we can talk through a couple of potential responses if you feel like someone's trying to put you in a corner. First of all, who in the room is this their first time doing legislative visits? Terrific. Great, great, great. Welcome to the wonderful world of advocacy visits at the Capitol. So the first thing you're going to do logistically is we have maps and assignments. We're going to break into teams. Don't worry too much about that. We'll keep folks together who want to be together, and then if there are people who are open to mixing up and working with another group, then that would be great too. It's good to go into an office with more than one perspective. So people with different conditions, for example, it's good to have that perspective. So we'll give you everything you need before you go. When you walk into the office, you'll be greeted by probably a young intern or other staff person. You just say, hey, my name is Caitlin. I'm here with Mom's Lobby Day. Can we please sit down with the legislator or the person on staff who deals with issues of health? We're here to talk about exactly. Medical cannabis, medical marijuana program, or you can say the bill number, once you get in to talk about it. So don't be nervous going in. This is what they do all day. Every day we're in the height of session, so they're used to people coming and knocking and having a seat with them. We are going to give you feedback forms in these folders. So what we ask is every team will have essentially a leader. I mean, everyone will be doing the talking, but we're going to have one person kind of help make sure you can get around the Capitol and everything. And everyone is going to get folders that has a feedback form. You're going to want to take that out and take notes on it for a few reasons. One, it makes you look serious, right? You're like, I am writing down what you were saying on this piece of paper, which I'm then going to bring back and we're going to put in a database. So that's good. Looks good. It also will help us chart out the responses of different legislators. So sometimes a staff person will say, okay, great, thank you for coming in, goodbye, nod, 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 right? And you're not getting anything concrete. We're here to do concrete asks today. So when we go in, and it's going to be a brief meeting. So when we go in, you want to be ready with what kind of question or what kind of ask you want to make of the legislator or the staff. For example, if you are advocating for the comprehensive bill, the whole plan bill, then you can say, do we have the support of the legislator for this bill? If it were to come to a vote, would you support it? Do you have any concerns or do you have any suggestions for us as we advocate for this bill? Asking someone for suggestions is always a good way to engage them because they get thinking about politics. Everyone in this building loves politics, right? So they're thinking strategy. They're like, oh, well, I am a nerd about that, so I can tell you this and that, right? And so those are the things you want to be writing down. Maybe they say, you know what, we need more research to be given to the legislator because he really doesn't understand the science. Or what about an event in our district? right? Things along those lines. So those are all things that you can write down, what we said we would follow up with, what they said about the legislation, if they had any concerns. And then also ask them for a concrete follow-up, right? So if they say, I will get this message to the representative or to the senator and I will ask for their opinion and I'll get back to you. You say, that's great, wonderful, when would be a good time for us to call back to follow up? And then, okay, great, we'll be back with you next Wednesday, that sort of thing. Do you have something, Dwight?
I was just going to say, you guys are more than welcome to drop my name in any office. I don't necessarily know them. But if somebody and you're talking to this office are like, oh, this is a really good idea. It has, what if we did X? Say, hey, Dwight Clark, he's the staffer and Senator Menendez is covering this bill. He would love to sit down and have a conversation. We give him my name, Senator Menendez. We're all in a global address book. They can look us up. But don't hesitate. If somebody has ideas or suggestions for the bills, to drop my name and have them give you a call.
That's great, thank you, Dwight. And we also have access to medical professionals. So a lot of folks are only going to be listening to someone who's wearing a doctor's uniform, right? We can put them on, we can set up a call, we can set up a meeting. And so whatever it is that they want, you say, terrific, we will think about how we can get you that information. And then make sure to write it all down so that we can swiftly respond, okay? So those are kind of the general best practice. Obviously be grateful, be thankful. And so now let's just quickly go over a few what I consider to be traps in medical marijuana advocacy. These are questions that I've been getting a lot and since the bill's been introduced from the press. And so I have been thinking about and talking to other people about when I get asked a really tough or leading question. Let's do it in just a couple minutes, is that okay? Yeah. This is some of the ways that I've been told to pivot and talk about what it is that I want to talk about. One thing, the question is, isn't this a slippery slope? You get medical marijuana, but really all you're doing is moving toward legalization. Has anyone been asked that before? Everyone, right? So what I recommend if you get a question like that is to tell the truth, which is no. This bill today is about suffering patients today. This is about my child, this is about my family. This is not a recreational bill. This is a tightly regulated bill for the following debilitating conditions. This is how it's going to help my family. We care about getting relief to people today. So again, if you get the question about slippery slope, isn't this, what about the kids, right? Someone asked me that recently, I'm like, what kids are you talking about, right? This is important to us, this is a medical bill, we need this now. That's one piece. Another piece is, well, what about California or Colorado? Isn't this, if you get your toe stubbed, aren't you going to be able to get medical marijuana? Answer to that once again is no. This is a tightly regulated bill that was designed specifically for Texas. So those debilitating conditions are defined in the legislation, and it is not going to be at all like California. In fact, it was crafted after successful bills in other red states or Republican states. People respond well to that here, right? And so keep that kind of anecdote in mind. People might say, is Texas really ready for this? You know, maybe next session, right? So according to a recent poll, 77% of Texans support bringing medical marijuana to Texas. So what I see from my perspective is it's not a political risk to support medical marijuana, it's a political risk to not support medical marijuana in Texas, right? And so that's another piece that we need to say, to be strong about that. There's extensive research on this issue. We can get anyone any research they want. And the one other piece that I would hit, if you want to, is what we call medical refugee issue. And so I would say to them, you know, we were in this room this morning, we were asked how many of us had considered leaving the state to be able to access care for our children, and 40 hands went up, right? And so this is what is happening. Veterans are leaving, families are leaving, patients are leaving to go to places where they can access the care that they need. And we believe we should be able to stay in our home state of Texas. Texas is also a leader in medical research, right? And so it makes a lot of sense that Texas would be the right place for this bill to come. So if we pass it this session, which number state will we be? 24. Make Texas 24, okay. So I think those are the main things that I've been asked by folks trying to, you know, get me to say something that will not be politically effective. Are there other questions or other pieces that you guys have been asked in your work?
I'm curious, are you aware of any pharmaceutical lobbyists right now working, against you guys right now for this?
So my understanding, I'm not an expert on that question, but what I hear is that the answer is actually no. And I think once the federal government, pharmaceuticals are federally regulated, so once the federal government moves on passing medical marijuana or ending medical marijuana prohibition, then we will probably see the emergence of pharmaceutical companies wanting to get into the business, is my understanding. But at this point, I don't think that's our opposition. Heather, do you think, is that right?
I think so.
Okay.
I think that if anything, their role is going to be installing, getting us this plant that we can grow ourselves in order to have them provide it in a pharmaceutical way. And so that is probably going to be our biggest thing. But in this building, I don't think that they're a big opposition. I think we have a lot of creating to do, a lot of showing ourselves to do before we have to fight anyone. We're winning this. The patients across the country are winning this issue. It's just a matter of showing up like we are today.
Great. Any other questions? You guys feeling, yep, Terry?
Is it appropriate to ask for support for all three of these bills? Or is there any, do we need to pick one of the two medical marijuana bills?
I think that's a strategic choice. I think supporting all of them is good. I think, and I think there's different opinions about this even in the room. I think we know that the whole plant bill is the most comprehensive bill. It would reach the most people and it would serve the most people. The CBD only bill is very limited and we're concerned about its implementation. And the NASHTAT bill is a slightly different issue, and so we really want to see that move forward. So I would just think, over lunch with your team and your family, what do you want to focus on today? And then go from there, would be my sense. I don't know, Talia, does that sound right?
It does. The CBD bill is, like she said, very limited, very restrictive. Even in the epilepsy community, it only helps a small percentage, and even then, there's no guarantee. Some of the Gervais kids have done better with 1% THC, that kind of thing. That being said, it's got a lot of traction. So it's, most likely candidate, but don't be discouraged by that, and don't keep that from advocating for the whole plant bill if that's in particular what you're interested in.
Would it maybe help Representative Nate out if we intentionally said, now you understand this is separate from these two?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Let Amy talk.
Yeah, please.
Thank you so much for bringing it up. We really don't want to forget about Representative Neistat's bill, because in this room, it's the one thing we can all agree on, that people that are patients and caregivers and the doctors that help us are not criminals, and we should not be arrested, or we shouldn't have the threat of CPS because we want to treat our children. So please remember to talk about Neistat's bill. I'm asking you that was really a driving force behind today. It is an unselfish bill on his part, and it would help people that choose civil disobedience, who are not criminals, just simply put. So that's 837. The pushback I got from my representative, who's a Republican, very conservative, I really like him a lot, I'm very conservative myself, and he said, we were told 2 years ago that this was just going to be the first step towards recreational use. Please, this is conservative Texas. Reassure them that as medical patients, we are not here for recreational. People that want to lobby for recreational, they have every right in the world to do that, but we are here as parents and caregivers, and we are lobbying for our kids, advocating for our kids. So please assure them that we are not the slippery slope to get to recreational.
A good point to make on that bill is that people who want marijuana for recreational use, they're getting a hold of it now, illegal. I mean, they can get it. But people that want measured dosing of medicinal strains, it's impossible to find in this state. So people who get it from California and Colorado, they should not be held to the same criminal standards. That's just not right.
I mean, shouldn't we also emphasize that the medical cannabis is high CBD and it's
Well,
very
some
hard
of
to
it
get
is.
high on
Some
some
of
of
it
that.
That's the CBD low, high CBD, low THC bill.
Right.
There are conditions that require the whole plant.
Yeah.
And medicinally, you know, it can be low doses, so I think there's autistic children who would need high THC or at least 1-to-1, and they're not, you know, it's still low doses of that. So we can't just say low CBD or high CBD, nobody's gonna get high, that
Unless you're
doesn't-
advocating for 892.
Unless you're advocating for 892, but all these conditions need to have the needs determined by the doctor. What does the doctor say? Does the doctor say you need a certain percentage of CBD or a certain percentage of THC? It should be up to them. They trust doctors with pharmaceuticals that are making our kids high, I'm telling you that right now.
How you feeling?
How are doctors feeling about, like, actually prescribing that? Like, are they comfortable? Like, I'm not real sure about, like, our son's neurologist, if she's complete, like, she didn't want to talk to us about it really, because she was kind of like,
Some doctors are nervous and others are like, yeah, go for it. I think it just depends on your doctor. But educating your doctor is a great first step. Bringing in research that they can respect is a great way to get them on board with recommending. And NASHTAD's bill doesn't require it written. It doesn't require anything official. You can just talk to them, and if they say that would be something to try now at this point, then you've got it. Then NASHTAD's bill is for people like you.
And there is a protection within his bill. It amends the occupational code so that doctors won't be punished for talking to you about it. A lot of them are apprehensive to
That's
do
right.
so, because
That's
they're worried
right.
about that, but
You
that's
can
what
bring
his
them a
bill
copy
will
of
do.
NASHTAD's bill itself. There will be a copy in the packet for everybody to take. So.
Please.
Okay, we had a doctor previously who was very aware of the subject of cannabis, and he would sit there and talk to us for hours, he didn't mind. And then they changed doctors on us. What do we do about that one? If this one is brand new to Texas, but isn't for it or doesn't understand, how do you go about that one?
I mean, I might try and change doctors if you're able.
So we're gonna change to another doctor.
That would be my gut. And I do think that the medical community in places where there are medical marijuana is very supportive, because the research is there and the research is robust.
But, this doctor we had before, he was very for it, but of course, like you all stated earlier, he was scared, you know, to say too much.
That's right.
But in this one is very, very different.
Yeah, and that fear is created by the law, right? And so if we are able to bring legal access, safe and legal access, then we will see doctors being able to step out. Already there are a lot of doctors that do step out, but I think it's important that we work with physicians who we trust.
I'm gonna piggyback on you. We have a new resource in California. If you have questions about your condition and you're interested in learning more about your condition, I would encourage you to call United Patients Group in California. They have nurses on staff that will talk to you about this, and they can support you around issues like this or issues that you have. And they'll talk to, they can serve as sort of helping you field all the information that's out there, because there's a lot of misinformation. They're a very reputable group. They've been around a long time. They help patients. So I encourage you to look up United Patients Group and give them a call if you need help around the issue or understanding it for your condition.
Terrific. So I'm looking at the time, and I'd like to get us moving towards our visits. I'm going to go over a few logistics, and then we'll send folks on your way to begin advocating. A few things, as you walk out the door, we're going to hand you one of these red folders. And inside it, there's talking points that you can use. There's an overview of the bill that you can refer to. There's a copy of the NASHTAD bill. And then there's those feedback forms that I was talking about, which I'd encourage everyone, not encourage, I would ask everyone to fill out. And then at the end of the day, you're gonna bring everything back, you're gonna bring back the feedback ones to this room before you leave.
You can use this room as sort of a home base. You can pop in and out as you need to. Somebody will be here the whole time. And
If you have
we
any
definitely would
questions,
ask
we'll be
that
here.
you come back and let us know how your visits went or if you have any questions along the way.
Yeah, we really want the feedback.
So you'll take notes on the feedback form. There's also, on on the page that has an overview of the bills, on the back, there's room for notes about your own talking points. So if during lunch you want to chart out some of what you plan to say, feel free to. And then,
I want to say one more thing.
please.
Just from a staff perspective, because we have a lot of folks that come in, something that's always helpful for me is everybody in their room more than likely will have a business card. And so like pieces of paper are good, but if you get that person's business card and then the next day or on Monday, send them a follow-up email with everything that you talked about with the handouts. It's a lot easier for us as staff to save digital files than it is to save paper files. And that way you also have a follow-up conversation with them. So that's something I would recommend, is everybody grabbing a business card, doing a follow-up email with them.
That's terrific. Folks are encouraged to, if you brought paper copies of your testimony, feel free to send it or send it in a follow-up email or just talk about your experiences. Before we leave the room, would folks be open to having a Mom's Lobby Day group photo up here?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. I think that would be good.
I would like Terry Carricker to come up and have one word about 892 from an epilepsy mom's perspective. And then, so the rest of the day is we're gonna separate into groups. So think about if you wanna choose your group, or if you're a straggler and wanna join a group, we'll help you with that. And when you get the maps of the Capitol, on the bottom of each sheet is the committee members and the authors of the bills who belong to that floor. So E1, Hallway 300, for example, has a lot of public health committees, and that's who we want to focus on, is public health, because that's going to be where the bills are heard. So look at E1, see if your legislators there, but start hitting the public health. And we want groups to go to all 4 floors, or whatever, how many floors there are, and hit those committees. So look at the map when you go at lunch, and you know, we should kind of, as a group, figure out how we're gonna get people up onto 4 North, or,
My sense is that once we wrap up in here, take the group photo, I think most folks, correct me if I'm wrong, are gonna head to grab a bite at Capitol Grill. Does that sound right? Okay, so we can also, we'll do our best to assign teams and give out maps, but we'll follow everyone to the Capitol Grill too and make sure everyone has the information they need.
and we have people here that are advocates that that aren't necessarily parents. So if you've never been to the Capitol, have somebody with you to bring you around, because it's very confusing.
And we'll help with that. We'll help,
Yeah.
you know,
Put you
assign
with people.
people that
Yes.
maybe aren't parents but know the Capitol and can help support and can help give advice and.
Yeah.
The last thing that's in the packet is a government patent that talks about the cannabinoids that are beneficial, that the government took out a patent in the 70s, I believe. And I highlighted the section on there that has 4, I'm a little fried right now, whatever it's for. And you can put your, like autism,